I would like to acknowledge the Guringai people and pay my respects to the elders both past and present. The Guringai people are the traditional owners of this land where we meet today. With a remarkable career in music and entertainment that spans decades, Nick has not only made his mark as a singer and songwriter, but has flourished as a producer, touching hearts globally. From signing with major labels like BMG Records and Artista Records to being the creative force behind television series and venturing into film and comedy productions, Nick embodies the spirit of creative evolution and purposeful living. Nick shares how staying true to his artistic vision has shaped his journey and influenced his artistic endeavours, exploring the harmonious blend of passion and purpose.
Welcome to Sharing Stories, Changing Lives. The host, Karen Sander, has the privilege of interviewing individuals from all walks of life, each with their own powerful and inspiring stories. The guests share their life experiences, and in doing so, they celebrate the transformative magic of storytelling. To learn more, visit www.thestoryroom.au and explore the private membership area, the Backstage Pass.
Welcome, Nick Howard.
Oh, thank you, Karen. It's wonderful to be here, by the way.
Yeah, well, I'm so pleased that you've joined us. I want to go back to the early days, Nick. Mm-hmm. Your family seemed to be gifted when it comes to music. So who influenced you all?
It's quite interestingly, I think it was mainly listening to music. Probably Mum was playing on the radio in the car. She used to listen to a lot of that stuff, and they'd play records. Dad used to sing in the shower a lot. There was always music around. And Mum and Dad used to have parties too. So they'd have these kind of big parties and there'd be music playing as you went to sleep at night. And I enjoyed hearing all the party activity and the music going to sleep. But there was no there were people in the family of the past who have actually, been great at piano and those sorts of things, but there was no I just picked it up because I loved doing it. And I think early on I was involved with, like doing puppet shows and stuff as a kid or putting on productions of things. And I enjoyed that side of it. And music, I just connected. And when I was at primary school, I had a great music teacher. And Hugh Stofus, who was fabulous, and he was an African Jewish German Jew, and which was, I always thought he's had a tough life. He was an older man. He's since gone, only in recent years, but he worked at this school, and he kind of heard something in my voice, and he promoted me in we did school musicals and in the choir and that sort of thing at school. So I had a lot to thank for him for my love of music, I think. And he wasn't a conventional music teacher. He was one that would sit down and he'd turn hymns into have a gospel swing and nothing was stale and ordinary about the way he taught music. It was about enjoying music, which that's one thing I've always been able to do, but I think it's something I'm trying to encourage with everyone that should be a part of their lives.
Yeah, and your brother, I know, plays as well, and other family members. But can you share the story behind, you were a musician and you were a pop singer. I want to know about your early days when you really broke into the industry.
It's interesting. Loving music early on. I was probably, in primary school when I started doing guitar lessons, didn't like it at all. And then when I was about 15, I picked up a guitar and I thought, I really want to play this. And I started learning. I went to, taught myself a lot of the chords at first. I just bought an acoustic guitar, and then I started going to classical guitar lessons because I wanted to do music for the HSC. Did that, loved it. Only did that for 2 years, but it wasn't anything to do with rock chords and that sort of thing. It was very classical, and while I enjoyed that, I really wanted to sing and play. So as I was at high school, I met a guy who was a drummer, Mal, And Mal and I said, let's form a band. And we started writing songs. I wrote a song that we both did, really. It was called Loner Boy, was the first one. And we loved it, and we started playing. We'd rehearse in the lounge room, and then eventually Jono joined the band. And so we're in a band, and we started getting that.
Jono being?
Brother Jono, yes.
Brother Jono.
Sir Jonathan Howard. We were playing with other people, and then all of a sudden we found ourselves without a bass player, and he picked up bass off ear, and guitar, and everything he's learned has been totally from ear. So we'd rehearse and we'd go out drinking, and at night we'd come back home because we were still living with mum and dad, and the drums would be set up in Jono's room, and I'd have the guitars, and we'd bought a little 4-track recorder, and we started to record ourselves, and we'd start around about 12 o'clock at night and go through till about 3.
I bet mum and dad were thrilled.
Oh, they loved it. And dad would pound on the door at like 1 o'clock and say, "God, you guys get to bed. I mean, what are you doing? Still up?" But we'd do it time and time again because we loved it, and we spent so much time doing it. Every waking moment was kind of involved with music and writing music. And then eventually the band kind of down the track folded, but one of the bands that we were working with and gigging with around Sydney, the lead singer had a studio, and he said to me one day, he said, "I like the songs that you're doing in your voice." He said, "Do you want to come down and do some songs, some stuff on your own?" And I took the offer up, and Steve Peach, actually, who has gone on to do, I think he's done great things. He was involved with doing the music for Bluey, and he's a very successful guy in music. And I really respected and loved Steve, and for everything he did for me too. He got us a meeting with a record label, and from there, basically, I got signed to BMG.
Wow.
And yeah, and that's how I got started, pretty much, in a nutshell.
And where does Simon Cowell come into the picture?
Well, when I was signed to BMG Records in Australia, it was pretty much for Australia. And there was my manager at the time, Neil Clugston, who was looking after Craig McLachlan and Alyssa Jane Cook, I think, at the time, said, "Look, we've got an opportunity over in London because Craig's been offered or done music over there." And he said, "I've shown the label Artista, and they were associated with BMG, and they said they liked the single." And I went over there and met Simon Cowell, and he said, "Yeah, look, we love the single. Let's put it out, see how it goes. But it's got to really get in the top 20 pretty much in the first week of release if we're going to take on a serious, take this seriously and take it further." A few opportunities then came up in London, and I did the Smash Hits tour of London with some big acts, and the new acts at the time, which were Boyzone and another act called Juice. And Boyzone at the time had already had a #1 in Ireland. So the new acts here, the Smash Hits tour involves 3 new acts basically battling it out around the country. You do like 8 shows, different cities, and people vote online or at the time on telephone to get you through to the next stage. And so Boyzone had already had this #1 record, so they were already in the UK, had a pretty great standing, and they won through. I didn't do too bad, but it was just one of those times. But we released the song, and I think the song came in, it was just outside of the top 40, but it wasn't enough to actually keep and sustain a career going in the UK. It was costing a fortune to be over there too. And we'd spent a lot of money recording in America, this album that I was doing. So that's how that came about, pretty much. Gee, that was a lot of information.
Music has changed so much, Nick.
It hasn't. Yeah.
The digital age has changed a lot, but what inspires you to continue creating music in today's digital age?
Yeah.
How have you had to change?
Well, actually, not at all. And I think that the way that we buy and listen to music has changed, but the way it's created, even though, yes, digitally there's more platforms to create music on, which is actually good, you still got to be able to write a song, or you still got to write a piece of music that's original. Nothing has changed with the way that I do it now, but except putting the music to it, I usually sit down with a piano and a guitar and just write a song. If you're going to put the drums and the bass and all the funky sounds in there, you get onto a project, a program like Logic, and you can put all that together where you used to perform live in a studio. Music itself, it's funny because Charlton, Leroy, he actually has a new song I heard on Instagram Today come out, and I just went, wow, that song sounds like something I would have produced or written or sung back in, the late 90s. And it's funny how music since the 60s and the Beatles really hasn't drastically changed. There have been like developments in technology, but music and songs haven't changed that much, their structure and the way that it's presented. I think the productions actually got worse with digital. I think when people could get into the studio and actually mic up a guitar properly and spend the time mixing drums and getting the drum sounds, I mean, that was special. And you get the natural organic sound from instruments, which is what we miss. And I think the more organic that music is kept, the more we respond to it too, the longer it lasts.
What about the creative process? As you've had many, many years in the industry, how do you keep fresh and keep going with your passion and your purpose?
Yeah, it's funny because the process of being creative or being creative, I think, is a part of your being. It's not like a business where you can go, okay, well, I gave that a shot and I'm not going to go into that business, or I'm going to do something else. Creativity is a part of all of us, I believe. If you've been practicing creativity through your life, the last thing you want to do is get rid of it. And many people do go to get rid of it when they feel like they haven't succeeded for whatever reasons. They haven't earned enough money. They haven't got the fame. They haven't got, sold the amount of records they want to do or reached as many people as they want. And I've looked at a lot of stuff, and there's a lot of stuff on Instagram and Facebook, which I tend to agree with. And this is that you do creative things and music for yourself. I think you get into a bit of a flow state with it. If you relax and let your creativity flow, it's almost like I feel when I write, there's a passage to a music room in the sky that actually downloads stuff. It's like songwriters from above are giving you melodies and inspiring words that if you're in that flow state, you actually can pick up and put down. I quite often, I write every day. I think most days I write or sit at the piano and put music together. And it surprises me where it comes from. But I know that the more you do it, the more it comes. And you've got to be full of gratitude and understand that these things are a part of who we are, and everyone has the ability to do them as well. But you need to be connected to the universe almost.
And you're writing every day and playing music every day. Is it a bit like someone journaling?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny how you can see with music, I mean, it's not every day, but I will have a burst where I'll just do a month of writing every day and then I'll stop for a few weeks or whatever, maybe. But you notice that you go through a batch of songs that have a definite feel and maybe the way that the things that you're going through at the time. The melodies speak for themselves, or the words that come into the melodies say something. But definitely, I just think that everyone should try and do something creative. I think it's part of our spiritual being. And songs, to me, music is kind of like the last bastion that we have, or last connection we have to God in a way. Like it's like that can move people. That the vibrations in music physically move you, they emotionally move you, they clear your mind, they set a tone. It's so powerful. And everyone loves music. Everyone listens to it, whether it is whatever it is.
If you're interested in getting more involved in our community, connecting with people who share your interests, you can do this by visiting our website at www.thestoryroom.au.
What I've really enjoyed, Nick, lately is watching little kids when they hear music and how they move, just free-flowing to music, just enjoying it. It starts so young.
Yeah, and that's part of that beautiful energy that's created. And, it's play. Like creative energy is play energy. It's play. Kids play, but they're very creative. They can visualize things easily. If you say to a kid, let's do a painting, bang, they do a painting. Let's sing a song, bang, they sing a song. Let's make some music. Yes, it's all yes, and it's all connection. There's no fear. It's as we get more rigid in our ways and we lose the sense of play and we lose the sense and we become fearful actually of doing things. If someone says, okay, I want you to do a drawing, I can't draw. I want you to do a painting. I can't paint. I can't sit and play a musical instrument. I can't sing. It's all this I can't. But when we're young and playful, we just do it and we move. I can dance. I can sing.
I love what you're saying there, because I think some of that fear that we have is a fear of someone not liking what we're doing, not approving of what we're doing, that fear of almost rejection.
Yeah.
That someone won't like our creative, gems that we've put heart and soul into, and then you can't do it because you just don't feel it's, you're good enough to do it.
I've spent a lot of time trying to think about when I was younger, and I love the idea of thinking this, even though it's a different way of thinking, I guess. But I think you come into the world with this pure, beautiful energy, and it's free. But as soon as you come into this world, you're tainted, and the environment shapes who you are. It comes from the doctor handing you across to the mother, doctor handing across to the mother. As soon as that happens, as soon as you come into this atmosphere, you're influenced by the people around you. And depending on how you grew it up and what you did or whatever, or where you fall is kind of where you go. So if you're told, yes, you're right, you can't do that, you kind of start believing it from a young age. And once it happens at a young age, it's imprinted. It's so hard to break those impressions. So if you've had a nice, balanced, healthy, creative, young stage, I believe you can wake that stage up. But if it's been a very negative stage when you're younger, and maybe you've been bullied about it, maybe you've done things that people just say you can't, then that's going to be hard to break, but you should keep practicing. There's a lot to be said for, I first of all believe that everyone has the ability to sing, to find pitch, to work with frequencies. I believe that everybody needs to practice the art of musical, or if I'm talking music here, music. And I believe that when we're judged, like some of these talent shows come on and they judge people and say, well, even though they're looking for a specific kind of artist or singer, it's not right. I think everyone needs to be encouraged. If you put somebody down, you're stopping the creative energy coming through, and it's kind of controlling, it's a really controlling mechanism, because people with music and art are free thinkers. They're the problem solvers of the world. They're not the ones that do things by numbers. And if that stops and that reduces, then there's a lot more power given to people that actually want the power more, and the creative thinkers and the ones who think outside the box and question things and ask the question of things. They're the ones that stop driving people to move forward. Media companies and stuff doing these big judgy shows, I think, are very kind of negative. And they stop the industry too, because you have to realize that when you go on that show, or the people that win those shows, they've had all this exposure. They've had no time to train and be that artist with all this following. And then when they go off, they don't know how to handle it, and the following goes away, the TV show turns off, bang, everything's over. And it's a really bad example of what music and creative should be. Every time I think about that thing with music, it's one thing that really bothers me, because I just think it's one thing that kids want to do, but it's the one thing that's stopping our creative energy.
What current projects are you working on, and how do they reflect your evolution in your musical world?
I've been in LA with Charlton, my son, and living there with both my sons in Austin. And over that period of time, I kind of started getting particularly back into writing and producing and being an artist again. And I had this kind of spiritual awakening over there too, with a lot of stuff. And, I realized Charlton calls himself the Kid Leroy, and I used to speak to him about that. And I'd say, where did the Kid Leroy, or I said something, who am I speaking to? That's right. I said, am I speaking to Charlton here or the Kid Leroy? He goes, well, Dad, Charlton's, who is the Kid Leroy? And he goes, well, the Kid Leroy is like this, he's the artist, and Charlton is always here. Charlton Howard's always here, but, this is expression of who he was as an artist, and it gave him, we talked about restraints growing up and being shaped it took away anything that people said as a negative, because you could be, if you're, and I became Peace Phoenix over this period of time, but if I'm Peace Phoenix, I don't care what people think about. I lose that, I drop or everything, any inhibitions. I work and I live by that. And it gives me and I've realized over this time that people have these performance names to actually identify with, perhaps almost like their soul. There's this, I call it almost like a soul name, because it's actually who they want, who they should be, had the people not told them they did the wrong thing, and they've had these inhibitions about performing. And I think over the years I've gained a lot of thoughts and probably insecurities about certain things, but Peace Phoenix, he doesn't care about that stuff. It's a funny thing, but it's, if you can get into that stage, it stops that overthinking of one can do before they do their art, if you know what I mean. And I don't know. So Peace Phoenix, in that project I'm working on, I've written like 50 songs in the last 6 months or 8 months. I've got a SoundCloud with them on there, but I haven't done anything much with them, but that doesn't matter. I think the main thing is to create. And on the other side of things, I've been working, funny enough, in a television show idea and a movie idea, which have had interest, and we're sort of in pre-production with both, or not pre-production, but it was kind of like both. I've got these two entities at the moment that have producers that are working with them, and we're in very early stages of it, which is exciting. So the writing from music into stories, and I think it all works hand in hand.
Can I audition?
Yes, you can. You've got it.
But you won't get the part. Oh, I'm cheeky, Nick.
No, you get the part for sure.
Well, why Peace Phoenix?
Oh, well, I realized one day, I thought, and I don't know why, there's been a lot of signs around me for different things. I have a number 448, which I used to write in my wrist a lot, which I now have tattooed on me. But there's signs around me. 448 comes up all the time, or there's certain things. Peace came to me when I was over there because I thought, I don't know how it came into my head, but I just thought, I love the peace. I'm working towards keeping the peace and trying to be peaceful. And ideally, I thought, peace is a really, like that. I think that identifies who I am. I like to have that peace. I like to have peace. I don't like injustice. I like, and I like to think that I don't like to see imbalance, and that sort of thing. And so peace was, I kind of identified with that, and I thought, I was mucking around with it, and I thought, peace, yes. And then Phoenix, one day I was looking up at this star in LA, and Charlton's had security guys around, and I was talking to one of the security guys, and I looked up at this star, and I said, I said to Will, that star, I swear, everywhere I go, I feel like it's behind me. And he said, that star, he said, that's Phoenix. And I said, what do you mean? And he goes, well, that's Phoenix. And if you have that star, or if you feel that, it's a very special connection you have. I said, really? And we talked about it for a while, and we talked about theories and different things. So Peace Phoenix kind of stuck, and it felt natural. I don't know if that makes any sense at all, but it did to me.
No, it does, but I'm pleased. Like sometimes I get asked why I've called something what it is, and you go, like, even Aging Fearlessly, and I went, I had a scrapbook out, and I was writing the word aging over and other words on the other side, and eventually it came together, but I don't know how.
Well, but what a great title. That's a great title. I mean, it's something where people, to me, it's moving forward without fear and without thinking that you're restrained. Straight away, you feel like you've got this, beautiful energy moving forward. So, love it.
And I have you to thank for that gorgeous song you wrote for the Aging Fearlessly podcast.
That was good. That was good fun.
Are there any young artists or trends in music that you find really inspiring or influential in the work that you're doing today?
Yeah, look, it's funny. There are a lot of young art. I say the production and sometimes things are a bit more plastic than perhaps they were But there are some really great artists. Dominic Fike, who's a friend of actually he's an artist over in the States, young kid, came from a really hard background, got a big deal with Columbia. He's a great artist, very organic, guitar, picks everything very natural, great songs. You know, there's quite a few, Post Malone, and there's a few young artists out there who are, I think, brilliant. And I'm into encouraging and liking anything, actually everything. But there are some that really stick out that I like to listen to probably more than others, but that's my preference. I think generally there's a great flow of talent and creative energy in the younger generation as a whole. And I've met so many kids, like when I say kids, and they're 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, they've got this wonderful look on life that's different to what I guess I had growing up. Although mine was creative, theirs is creative. They've got a scope to think. They include creativity in their life, I think, generally. So people they don't have a fear of doing that. They're a different breed, I guess. But so my inspiration comes from a generation that is coming through that I have a lot of hope and I have faith in, actually, where people kind of go, well, are these kids really going to work hard enough? Are they going to know much about what they have a different understanding, I think, than us and our parents and their parents. And I think that the creative energy and their spiritual energy is very high. So, yeah, without pinpointing artists.
Do you have a preference for writing and producing your own music or producing and helping others with music?
Yeah, I like both. I get a kick out of either way. I really enjoyed sitting down sometimes and creating a Peace Phoenix song or doing something in that vein. But I love also getting into a studio and working with somebody and seeing somebody get excited about a project they're working on and being an artist, learning how to do something, learning to write, learning to produce, learning to sing. I've always had a bit of that. I've always done that too. I've always been involved with that. And I think that's a good thing to do. I think everyone that's been involved with, music should give something back too and work with people that want to learn.
What's your next big goal? You mentioned TV productions.
Yep.
Are they your next big goal?
TV, yeah. I'd love to get more involved with that. We've also set up a company. It's not a company yet. It's a website pretty much, which I want to take further. Heather and I.
Heather being your partner.
Heather, my partner. And I have set up Peace Flag. And Peace Flag actually, which we're kind of, it's a bit, the name we thought at the time might be a bit cryptic and we're thinking about rebranding, but I keep coming back to it. Peace Flag is meant to be an online resource for artists, young people who are interested in music, who don't know where, the next step to take when they're at certain levels. And it's meant to be a resource to help them find, how do I get a gig? Who are the people I speak to? How do I do this? How do I get my music somewhere? How does this person, what is publishing? What is marketing and promotion? And who's a promoter? So all those questions, including how to write songs and how to create in simple terms. So we haven't done all the resources online yet, and it's still very early days, but we've talked to a lot of young people about it and they're very excited. And there's a lot of artists out there just looking for something like this to actually help them get to the next level or actually act as a network too for people, to work together.
That, Nick, sounds so incredible. Gosh, gee, in life, I wish there was more websites like that could guide someone into starting their own business and it not being so overpriced that you can't afford it. And
exactly.
So for music, and I think that's brilliant what you guys are doing.
Yeah, thank you. I think it's a lot of hours to put into this, and which is fine, but I want to get it rolling. It's a long-term project, but it's funny how so many people are interested and drawn to the idea, and it's about just now creating the content properly and building it as a platform. And funny enough, through some of the other projects that we're doing with TV and film and those sorts of things will help that. I think the most important thing is that you just, you have to focus on moving forward with any art or creative thing and other thing, and things just fall into place. You know, like I don't think that we have to overthink things and get too overwhelmed by doing stuff. If you've got a good idea and you're just putting that work towards that idea or other ideas around that idea, everything will start falling into place. I believe that.
I am so pleased to see, Nick, that you're moving forward and moving with the times and following your purpose and your passion, and including Heather in your endeavours. It's just amazing to see you blossoming.
Oh, thank you. Well, you too. I love what you're doing. I love it. And I think that the world needs more encouragement for people to get up and tell stories and talk about their lives. And stories, I think, are the most important. And that's what I love, sitting down and writing. And it's what you do with all those people that get up and speak at your events. And it's magic. And that's how we learn. That's how we grow. That's how we stop doing things that we don't like doing. That's how we do things that we're scared of doing. You know, it's brilliant. And that's the future. That's how I think a lot of people are feeling too.
And, you know, I never thought this old dog could learn new tricks, but she has.
I know, it's great. You do an amazing job.
We're going to say goodbye right now, but you and I are going to go through that curtain over there.
All right, yep.
To the
cool.
backstage.
Sounds good.
Yeah, that, you know, that big heavy velvet curtain
yep,
in the
the
corner?
red one over there.
We're going out there.
All right, great.
We're going to sit in the two big chairs out there.
Awesome.
And we're going to have a chat with a cup of tea.
Sounds great. Sounds great.
What flavour tea?
English breakfast.
Earl Grey?
English breakfast would be perfect.
Milk and 2 sugars?
Just milk. Just a bit of cream in there. Yeah, that'd be great.
Well, I'll see you backstage, Nick, but let's just say goodbye to everyone now. Thank you so much for listening. And as an audience, thank you so much for listening. And Nick, thank you for sharing your purpose.
Well, thank you for having me on. It's a real compliment and an honour to be here. And I think it's wonderful what you're doing. So thank you, Karen.
Thank you for tuning in to Sharing Stories, Changing Lives. We'd like to invite you to support us by purchasing a Backstage Pass, costing about the same as 2 cups of coffee each month. With the Backstage Pass, you'll gain access to workshops and exclusive content, including videos from our live events. You can do this by visiting our website at www.thestoryroom.au. We can continue to show that sharing stories changes lives.